Viewer discretion is advised.
It's a dark, gloomy morning. The wind is picking up, the clouds are rolling in, and this is Safari Live. Ready.
Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Well, good morning everybody and welcome to a rather dark, windy sunrise safari. It's been a little bit interesting, the conditions. It seems like we've got a bit of a storm that might still be blowing in, although last night we had that storm that raged most of the night, so maybe this is just the tail end blowing out. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Dave, and we are probably going to go and look if we can find any signs of the royals. I'm not sure what they look like anymore. For those of you who are not familiar with the royals, it's a family of leopards that we have in the area, a female and 2 cubs. Now, it is an interactive experience, so we would love to hear from you wherever you may be. If you've got any questions about the African bush, remember you can send them through to #SafariLive on Twitter. And if you're just a new viewer and you want to let us know where you're watching from, we'd also love to hear from you. Right, without further ado, I think let's get moving and start seeing what we can find. I did hear some hyenas calling off in the distance, so we're probably going to go and try and check in at the hyena den at some point this morning. I do just want to go and check our southern boundary while it's still so dark, because we can't shine lights on the little baby hyenas if they are out. We don't want to affect their vision in any way or attract any attention that other predators may come in and cause a little bit of harm for the hyenas, so we will get there at some stage. I see lots of Ellie tracks here too, so we might have a look for them as well. So while we go searching for all these creatures and critters of the African bush, let's go across to my friend Byron, who's also out this morning.
Good morning everyone, my name is Byron and on camera with me this morning is Veer. It is great to be back. Those of you who missed yesterday's sunset drive, I got back yesterday. So back in the swing of things this morning, which is great. And as I said in the pre-show drive, getting used to these early mornings again. Early morning wake-ups, it's still dark. You can see the seasons are changing, moving into autumn now. And it's the darkness lingers a bit in the morning. There's an impala ahead of us, just bolting off. I don't want to shine the spotlight on them, so we'll leave them be for now. So Tristan is having a look for some elephant and maybe a hyena. He said he could hear a hyena in the distance. That's always great. I am... Oh, there's a little Swainson's Franklin just in front of me. Sorry, just on the road. Sorry, little Franklin. I'll just turn the lights off. These bright lights for a lot of these diurnal birds, it's not ideal. Their eyes are quite sensitive to bright light. So that moves off. There we go. So we do always want to be very sensitive to birds at night and early mornings like this. We don't want to shine the lights on them. So my plan for today, I think, is I'm going to just have a look around the northern boundary, our Buffelshoek boundary rather, just to see if the Nkuhuma pride have perhaps returned or wandered back onto Djuma. They were around yesterday, just north of the boundary, I think around Jacana area. So who knows, perhaps they have moved around. I didn't hear any lions calling last night though. But we shall see. Who knows what else we can find today. It's so interesting to see how the bush has changed in the last 2 months, or since I was last here. The grass is so long at the moment, which makes it a little bit more difficult to find animals, because they can obviously hide a lot better. And if something like a leopard or even lions, they were lying down under a tree in this long grass, it's almost impossible to spot them. A lot of different birds around. The monotonous larks are everywhere. Fork and Noodles, you must have been watching the pre-show drive already, and when we spotted that chameleon, you wanted to know, can the chameleons see well in the spectrum of, or what spectrum of light can they see, and can they see very well? So my understanding is they can see very, very well. And the visible spectrum of light, but they, the interesting thing with the chameleons is they are able to have a full 360-degree view of what is around them. Those eyes can rotate and move individually, so that one eye can look this way, the other eye can look forward, so they can have a good view of everything that is around them. Now, in terms of their color, or the color aspect of what they see, I'm actually not sure. I don't know. But I would guess that it's probably quite good, because chameleons feed on insects, so they have to be able to see movement and perhaps even insects that are slightly camouflaged. So I would guess that their vision and the spectrum of vision that they have is very good, but I'm not entirely sure. And I always wonder, and I've said this many times before, I know the scientists do studies and they try and work out how these animals see or what they see. And I know with predators, for example, they measure the rods and cones within the eyes, but I still wonder how accurate it actually is. And do we really understand what spectrum of color these animals see in, and how good their eyesight actually is? But again, we'll leave that up to the scientists for now. But it is very interesting. But I do find it fascinating how those chameleons are able to still get a clear image of what is around them, even though their eyes are looking in different directions. Alright, I'm going to continue searching the northern boundary. Let's head back to Tristan and get an update from him.
Well, I think that's a good idea, Byron. Maybe he gets lucky with some of the elusive lions, particularly the Nkuhuma Pride. They've been pretty elusive. Sorry, I'm just checking this little junction here, because often you'll find animals moving around in these areas. Now, the road that I'm on, if anything walked on here, there's no way we're going to see it, because the elephants have absolutely obliterated everything that is on this road. They have walked all over it, and all I see is big disc-like pads from the elephant's foot everywhere. So it's been quite tough, and it seems like they've now turned off, which means we're now starting to see all the other tracks again, which is good. It means that if any of the royals did come, we might potentially get to see them, which is great. So, like I say, I'm not even sure I would recognize Karula, Hosana, or Shongile at this stage. It's been such a long time since we've seen them. But I'm hoping with these conditions that we had last night's conditions would have been perfect for leopard movement. Aaron, you're wondering if there's a particular track I would like to see for Saturday. Well, I can tell you that there is maybe not one particular track, but cat, sorry, Lou, I thought you said track. Well, I think Karula and the Three Cubs would be very nice. That is probably number one. Otherwise, I would definitely take tracks for one of the male leopards. I'm always a fan of a male leopard, so maybe Tingana, and I know Mvula's been around, so maybe Mvula. That would be actually quite nice. I'd like to see Mvula again. Or I would like to see the 4 Birmingham males together. So that's my top 3 for the wish list this morning. Hopefully we get one of those 3. What do you think, Dave? That sounds good. I agree. And I forgot, it is Saturday, so happy Saturday, everybody. Hopefully it shall rain cats. It hasn't rained cats this week, so hopefully our luck changes, and it does. Now, I'm just checking some tracks here, but none of these are very interesting. These are all old hyena tracks that have been driven over and complete mess of them has been made. There's also some baboon tracks in there. But it is still very dark and dingy, so tracking is not the easiest at the moment. It's going to be quite a tough morning for tracking. We're going to have to keep our eyes peeled very well, because in this dark weather, the tracks just don't show up as much. You need a bit of light just to throw a sort of shadow onto it to give you a bit of contrast on the road, and then it's much easier to spot them. That, coupled with the fact that our field of view is very limited just to the light at the moment. It's not quite light enough yet to spot things easily, so it should be quite an interesting start to the morning, to say the least. But it is going to be a very, very, very pretty start, because on our eastern horizon there is just a little bit of color. Let me go back a bit, Dave, because there was a nice little gap there. There we go, somewhere in there. Should be quite nice. But there we go, you can see, look at that, there's a little bit of pink coming up from the eastern side, and then that huge bank of rather nasty looking clouds that is sprawling across the sky. The good news is, though, it looks like they're actually moving away from us, not towards us, which is very, very, very good news. It seems to be clear, which is what I was hoping for. But isn't that beautiful? Right, Dave, I reckon we need to find a leopard in a tree with a sky like that as a backdrop, and then we will be winning this morning excessively, I would say. Now, we got spoiled, Dave and I, this week. We had an elephant sighting with a spectacular backdrop, one quite similar to what we have today, except that the cloud was a bit higher, so when the sun came up it was just this beautiful orange glow underneath the clouds. And we had 2 Ellie bulls play fighting, and there was dust. It was really quite something. So if we can maybe replicate the magic and get another predator or a cat or something with these clouds, it would be very, 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 very good. These Ellies walked all the way from, I'm sure it's the same Ellies, if any of you were watching last night, that were swimming at Gowrie Dam. It was apparently quite something to watch. I didn't see much of it, I just saw a few screen grabs of it, but it looked amazing. And it seems that they've walked all the way down from the little Gowrie. Find any signs.
So it looks like Tristan just had a bit of signal issues there quickly, but we are still in search of lions, and Tristan mentioned how difficult it was to track in low light. I could not agree with you more, Tristan. It is very, very difficult, and I always struggle with it, I must be honest, because while we are driving, even with the lights on, it's very difficult to actually see clear tracks. So we've got to try and look very, very carefully, but it is not easy. I was talking about the birds earlier that are around, all these monotonous larks. It's wonderful to hear them for a while, but then they just don't go anywhere. And VM was saying they've been here for quite a while, and as I mentioned, it's amazing to see how the bush has changed in the last 2 months, or this area at least. Grass is much, much longer, which is great, obviously. All that wonderful rainfall. It's great to see how full the dams are. I'm going to head towards Buffelshoek Dam a little bit later. I'm curious to see what that is looking like. But all the other dams I've passed are all full from the rainfall that we've had. And I do think, though, that we're going to need 1 or 2 more storms. Just some rain, a little bit more rain to kind of carry us through the winter. But there's a lot of water around, which is great. And then Lucille was mentioning, Lucille, you said that a lot of people have been hearing the quails, but it's been difficult to see them. Now, Lucille, those quails are very difficult to find, and especially in this long grass. I mean, these little quails are tiny. Now, hide in the long grass, they've got very distinct calls, but it is difficult to find them. But we'll have a look. Occasionally you might see one or two wander out onto the road, so we'll have a look out for those the next 2 weeks or so while I'm here, definitely. Oh, sorry, VM spotted an elephant. Oh, great, let's have a look here. Hold on. Let's have a look. Oh, there we go, well spotted, VM. Let's see if we can get a view of this lovely elephant. It's just off to our left. Let me see when you can... A little bit forward here. Sure, it's still quite dark. Let's have a look. There we go. A little bit. Oh dear. See what happens when you go away for a while, everyone. You forget how to drive, you forget how to park the vehicle. There we go. There we go. There's a little herd. Yeah, looked like there was a few moving through here. Let's just wait and see if they come out. There we go, there's one moving through there. Oh, it's always wonderful to see elephant. You can see it's amazing how much lighter the camera actually makes this landscape at the moment. It's still fairly dark for us. Maybe my eyes just need time to adjust. But there's a whole herd of elephant moving through there. Every now and then I just see the backs of one or two youngsters. There we go. There's a little one moving through there. So this will be a breeding herd of elephant. We refer to them as a breeding herd, but it's because it's generally the females and the youngsters that are together. That's quite nice, look at that. My favorite. I love seeing the elephant. Rachel, you asked a question about the leaves, I think, just as we spotted the elephant. Maybe Lou can just give me that question again. Rachel, yes, the leaves, or these trees do indeed lose their leaves in the fall. That sounds like a poem almost, a rhyme. They do indeed, Rachel. So moving into fall or winter, or yeah, I suppose autumn, fall, and then especially in winter, a lot of these leaves or trees do lose their leaves. There are some which remain green throughout the year, but they're not particularly good to feed on, so the animals don't usually feed on them. Let's see if we can just get another view perhaps of this herd of elephant. They were moving from left to right. So Rachel, you know, a lot of these trees will lose their leaves, and it becomes very, very open in winter. The vegetation starts to die off a bit. It's a bit difficult, everyone. These elephants are just north of our boundary in Buffelshoek, but hopefully they'll move on to our side at some point during the day. You never know. It's quite thick through there at the moment. You can't really see them. Nice sight though, always great. Oh yeah, they are. It's quite a big herd by the looks of things. Just keep spotting one or two. I think it opens up a little bit ahead. Let's have a look here. There we go. There we go. That's better. Oh, look, there's a little baby. Look at that. Just hiding in that... Well, not quite hiding. It's just the grass is so long at the moment. Oh, lovely. See, all different ages and sizes. There comes another little one. Oh, one. Oh, that's great. Now, yesterday we saw some ground hornbills. And I can actually hear some ground hornbills calling in the distance. So yesterday we saw that pair of ground hornbills just off of Philemon's cut line. Oh, you can hear these elephant breaking trees behind us. So I can hear some ground hornbills again in the distance. A deep booming sound. Now, Tayla, you wanted to know the biggest herd of elephant I've ever seen. I'm trying to think now. It's probably about 150 elephant or so in Botswana. There we go. There's that little one again. That's a lot of elephant. No, herds of Botswana can be a lot more than that, in fact. But the largest I've seen is probably about 100 to 150 elephant, which was amazing to see. Now, I mean, look how well that little elephant disappears in the long grass, so you can imagine how a big cat would disappear. Now, Aaron, you actually asked a question earlier, which cat would we most like to see today? Or you asked Tristan, and he said, I think leopards and maybe a lion or two. I'm going to be different. I'm going to say I would like to see a caracal. That would be great. I've never seen one in the wild. So I'm aiming high this morning. I'd like to see a caracal today. Or in the next week or two. Oh, I think these elephant, if we stick with them, I think they're going to come out into the open and possibly cross the road. So I'm going to follow them a little bit. Tristan has a big elephant bull he'd like to show you.
We do indeed, Byron. We've got a massive Ellie bull. He doesn't have the biggest tusk, but he is huge. He's got a massive head and really, really large shoulders. So he's a very impressive specimen. And he's just absolutely shoving grass and leaves into his mouth. He's completely relaxed. You do see he's leaking a little bit from his temporal glands, which is a sign of some sort of emotion. So you'll find that they secrete that when they are in times of stress or when they are actually happy with life. And so I don't think he's in must at the moment. I'm looking at his back legs, but I can't see. You can see how they just disappear at the moment. And he's not gone far at all. He's probably taken one step and he's vanished behind that thicket. So I'm going to try just go a little bit forward and see if we can find a better angle. He does have a little friend with him. He's got a smaller, younger male that is just in front over here, but he's also hiding from us on the edge of the road. Now let's see if we can see this beautiful gentleman of an elephant. He's very, very relaxed. In no way has he even paid any attention to us since we've been here. He's just been feeding away and chomping down massive swathes of grass as he's gone about his business this morning. But isn't it incredible how such a large animal, I mean, that elephant must weigh 5 tons and he's completely covered. Sandra, this is an interesting question because you're asking whether the elephants come over to investigate us. Well, they do very, very often. Even very large bulls like this. Oh, look, we're going to see a tree going down. Or not. No. Very clever elephant. He's just pushed it over enough to be able to break a small branch to reach it. But even big bulls like this, they'll come along and they'll often come past the car and they're curious, and you'll see them come right up to the front and they sniff and they put their trunk close to the car just to try and work out what this large object is. But look at how much reach he's got. It's crazy how high they can reach with their trunk. And you'll find that they'll then come and look around, and once they satisfy their curiosity, they move on. You see a lot with the young ones, the babies, so sub-adults, Tiny babies, they often are very interested in the car, and they come over and sniff around and see what's happening. The females tend to be the least sort of interested in us, although I had a female the other day which was quite amazing. She was standing, I reckon, not even 10 centimeters from the front of the car. She had her trunk right up against us basically, and she was just happy to sit there, and it was almost like she was about to fall asleep until I had to start the engine, because 10 centimeters is a little bit too close. But it was quite amazing to see her sort of trust in us, and there was no aggression whatsoever. She didn't have any sort of aggressive stance towards us. She literally was just interested in what we were, and she came up, and I think she just decided we were a good place to spend some time. James has a theory that they get a little bit bored, and so when there's new things in their environment, given that they're such intelligent animals, that they are very curious and they like to interact. Oh, our younger male has come out onto the road, so you can see him there walking down. So you can see he's a little bit smaller, and this is quite common to see. You often see younger males attaching to big bulls. It's almost like they go through a tutor phase where they find this male and they'll learn from him. So they learn where are all the best places to find food and water, because these young males have spent most of their life with the herd, and they'll have been in the home range of the herd. And as a male, when they get kicked out, they're going to now travel much bigger distances, so they don't know a lot of the environment around them, and these older males are there to be able to help, and they show them where the water points are in the winter and the summer, and where the best foods are to find. And it's, like I say, like an apprenticeship program that they go through. It's very, very common to see. And those young males are called askaris, which is a Swahili word that's come about. So for when we go to Kenya, the guys will be speaking Swahili. Now our big bull looks like he might come out towards the road as well, which will be really nice. It'll be great if we can get the two of them together. So if we see the two together, so you can actually see a size comparison, because it's difficult for me to fully explain how much bigger this male is without the two of them being together. But he is slowly walking in that direction. I think, Dave, let's go forward a little bit so we get this power line out of your field of view. It's also nice to have the power lines running through the shot. Is he still walking there, Dave? He is. Oh, he's a beautiful specimen, isn't he? So like I say, he doesn't have the biggest tusk. Well, let's stop here because that's quite nice. There's a nice gap there. So he doesn't have the biggest tusk, but you can see lots of signs of wear and tear. That tusk on the left has definitely been broken at some stage and has been re-honed again. You can see lots of sort of scratches and scrapes all over them, and those tusks must be able to tell some serious stories, as this elephant's gone through the wilds of Africa for the last 30-40 years. Dina, there has been a couple big tuskers on Djuma. I know Brent has seen two really big ones. A few years ago, back in 2011, there was two massive elephant bulls that came into this area. One had a very long straight tusk. I can't remember if it was left or right, that was almost touching the ground, and then he had the other tusk came down and bowed heavily. It was a really beautiful tusk, and it came down and also was very long, and he was magnificent. I reckon his tusk must have weighed easily 80 pounds, which is massive for an elephant. So he was really big. And then we had another bull that came through for, I think it was about 2 days, and he crossed from Manyeleti through Djuma, through Hofmans and south into Mala and Londolozi, and his tusks were incredible. He had these massive, wide, thick tusks, and they came out and they were all the way down to the ground, and then just before the ground they curved upwards. The problem with him was that when he came through, he was in must, and he was as grumpy as they get. He came and he was head shaking, and I remember seeing him on a property just south of where we are now, and I must have spotted him from, I don't even know, 300 meters away. It's a big open clearing, and he was on the opposite side of the clearing, and from 300 meters he started to run straight at us in a full charge, and we drove and he chased us down the road as far as he could until he fatigued a bit, and then he left us alone. So unfortunately he didn't get time to get any pictures of him, but he was probably one of the most impressive male elephants I've seen in the whole of the Sabi Sands. Then there was another one that was down in the south of the reserve. didn't see it up here, but he even had a name. He was part of the Kruger's monitoring process of tusker elephants, and I can't remember his actual name now. It started with an M, but it was named after Harry Kirkman. So he was seen down in the southern parts along the Sabi and the Sand River, and he was also a really spectacular specimen. So there have been a few. The other day, Jandre and I actually found a male at Treehouse Dam, and then James found him on foot. Now, he didn't have the biggest tusks I've ever seen, but for this area he had really nice tusks, so they were quite long, and he was a really beautiful elephant as well. So every now and then we do get these larger sort of tusked elephants coming through, but it's not as common as we would like. That genetic strain of large tusks, unfortunately a lot of it was lost due to poaching in the Kruger many years ago, and hunting that's taken place as well. So maybe in time, as the pressure has now been released off these elephants in the Kruger Park, they've really thrived and proliferated. There's probably a chance that those tusks will then start to grow out again, and we'll start to see more. Now, Kruger's got a whole sort of team dedicated to monitoring the elephants, and they've got a program called the Emerging Tuskers. Now, look at that behavior. You see how the young one is backing away from the bigger male? As the bigger male approached around the back there, that younger one just backed away slightly. He noticed that he's much smaller and he must show signs of submission. So I'm just going to go for you, Dave, just so we can see. And they've got this Emerging Tusker program, so they're monitoring all young elephants that are sort of 20, 30 years old, that have tusks that potentially could be absolutely massive. So it's quite a nice thing to go read on if you do want information on it and you want to go see the sort of read up on these tuskers. You can go to the Sand Parks website, and they have a whole area dedicated for that. Alright, so now you can't really see the size difference because the male at the back is a little bit further away, so you're getting a sort of compressed effect of these elephants, where the bigger male, because he's further away from the lens, is appearing smaller. So what we'll have to do is just wait for him to come out and go a little bit closer to that younger male. But listen to them moving through the bush. It's quite nice, isn't it? And you can see this Ellies had a very good dust bath at some stage during the night. Look at how much soil and sand is all over him. So he's been rolling around in the mud and on the roads and throwing dust like we saw the bigger male doing just now. And that's all just to keep their skin in good condition. But you can see that it's amazing to me how such a big animal just disappears. Debbie, you were wondering why they throw dirt, as you saw it just now. I'm just going to move out the way because we've got another car behind us and we are on the main road. So I'm just going to move out and let them come past us. The point of the dirt throwing is to keep the skin in good condition. So it helps as an exfoliant. That soil is very abrasive, and so it gets rid of all the dead skin cells and little bits that they don't really need or want, as well as it creates a layer between them and the sun. Morning, Andrews, how are you? And that layer is then helps just to keep them a little bit cooler. So it's a good tactic to have. You'll often see what they'll do is they go to water, spray themselves with water, and the skin then gets damp, and they then take the sand or soil and throw it on them, and it sticks to them a little bit better and creates that layer that I was talking about. Button's cockatoo, you're wondering about if elephants can experience sunburn. Well, indeed they can. So when I was a younger lad, I spent some time in Kenya with orphaned elephants, and those were little babies that were orphaned by people poaching or natural death of the mothers, and the babies were ambling around by themselves, unable to fend for themselves. And those little babies, you had to rub with sun cream, particularly their ears. Their ears are still very sensitive to the sun when they're born. So you had to rub them with sun cream, and then you had to put blankets over their backs just to keep the sun off them. And then during the day, when they wanted to rest, you used to have to hang blankets up from trees so that they could find that shade of that blanket and then lie in the shade of that blanket. And you see it when they're with the adults, when they're with their mom. That's why when they're born, they're still able to fit underneath their mom so that they can always have shade, no matter where the position of the sun is, even if it's directly above where the elephants are. There'll be the shade straight underneath the mother elephant, and the baby can then go in there because its ears and its back are still very sensitive. Over time, the skin gets thicker and more resistant to the sun and is able to then deal with that, and they don't then get too badly burnt, and that's why they can then spend more time out in the sun. But you will see even the adults will move into shady areas when it's a very hot sunny day. It's amazing just to hear all the sounds of the morning. Now I know that Byron was talking about the monotonous lark and the button quails, and they've been calling all around us, and something else that likes to chat a little bit is Miss Tayla McCurdy, and I believe she's out and about on her bushwalk. So let's go across so she can say good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Well, as I'm sure Tristan and Byron have already told you, it's very cloudy and a bit miserable out here today. But my name is Tayla, and on camera with me is Superman Craig, aka Batman, and I don't know what other nicknames we always give him. And then, of course, Herbie is, well, just having a quick chat on the radio, trying to find out where the lion tracks have gone, because there were just reports of 2 female lionesses crossing in, not 2 female lionesses, just 2 lionesses, that's just fine because it's the same thing, crossing in from Sydney's dam coming south. So we are now going to try and help find them, because at the moment the lion situation has been quite interesting. They seem to pop onto the property, attack our zebra, and then leave again. They don't even stay to say hello. So we shall attempt to find them. The only problem is, I can't imagine how difficult it must be tracking from a vehicle today because of the quality of the light, because even on foot it's impossible to even pick up on impala tracks, which are normally the easiest tracks to see, which is quite crazy, don't you think? But that type of thing often happens out here when you, of course, are walking early in the morning on a cloudy day. It's not always the greatest, but we'll deal with it and we'll make do with what we've got, I suppose. And it was a little bit cold today as well, which was quite interesting. But Craig, you don't have a jersey on? None of us have jerseys on. We've just opted for long sleeves, of course. And that as we start marching along, we'll probably warm up quite nicely. Now, what we're going to have to do for the moment is, I haven't seen one insect yet, not even a spider. I think it's a bit too early and a bit too cold for them. But possibly as the morning warms up, we're going to find some interesting little things. And we're just going to have to keep on marching along until we for ourselves pick up a track. Because at the moment we haven't seen any lion tracks. We've just heard from Aubrey. And, well, he's going to let us know which direction they're coming, and then hopefully we'll intercept them that way. But we're going to keep searching, of course, hopefully find you a big cat for the morning. It's been a bit dry. Let's go across to Byron, who's gone from elephants to, well, a hippo.
Well, good luck, Taylor. Let us know if you get any tracks of those lions. We'll come and give you a hand. But we are at Buffelshoek Dam, and I cannot believe how full it is. This is amazing. So great to see. I actually don't recognize it. Wonderful, wonderful to see. And then we've got 2 hippo in here, which last time I was here, there was very little water and no hippo at all. So now to see 2 hippo is really wonderful. The hippo do move around a lot in these areas. They'll move from one dam to another, maybe even up from the rivers. It all depends. And there's a lot of water around. These animals do move around quite a lot, especially when they go off feeding during the evening, and then they'll know exactly where the big dams are that they can go and rest in during the course of the day, and then go out and feed at night again. That's nice, but it really is wonderful to see how full it is. It's amazing how the bush does change. So just a few weeks ago, what was it, 3 weeks? Almost a month ago, I took guests on safari. We were just south of here. We were on Londolozi, in fact, which was really, really great. We spent about 5 days there on safari, and it was around the time we were getting a lot of rain in this area, And there was that, I'm sure some of you might remember, there was that hurricane off of Mozambique. Caused a lot of damage in Mozambique, and we were very, very worried about this area, because the previous time that happened, this area rained a lot and we got some serious floods and flood damage. We did get rain, but fortunately it wasn't that bad, and we didn't get the after effects of this hurricane that was off the coast. But a lot of rain, and what happened while we were there is the Sand River, which runs through the Sabi Sands, and that's that's the reason that it's known as the Sabi Sand Game Reserve, which we are situated in, because it's situated between the Sand and Sabi River. And the Sand River flooded, which was great to see. Well, when we say flood, the water level rose quite drastically. It's amazing to see, and it happens very quickly. Within a day, water level just rises, and it becomes so high you can't cross the river anymore. And it's amazing to see from some of the camps which are situated on the river, and you see how the water level rises. It'll stay like that for a few days before it starts to subside again, but it is amazing to see. And what happens is these drainage lines fill up, and there goes a Waterbuck. These drainage lines start filling up, and they flow into these dams, such as this Buffelshoek Dam, and then obviously this just fills up. But it is wonderful to see all the water around at the moment. Fantastic. Now I'm just trying to listen out. The guys are having a look for those lion tracks that they saw. It sounded like they did come in from the north, which we said, remember I was saying earlier that the Nkuhuma Pride, the last update we got, that they were on Buffelshoek. But it sounded like there might even be a track of a male or two in that area. So I'm going to keep listening out and just see which direction they do go in. And we can give them a hand and hopefully find some lions today. A lot of elephant dung around and elephant tracks this morning. We saw that big herd already. There were definitely quite a few elephant in that herd. Look at all these hornbills just sitting on this dead tree in front of us. Have a look at that. Always great seeing these beautiful hornbills. Red-billed hornbills. As I said, there's a bearded woodpecker. You might have heard the knocking. I can just hear it knocking. Let's see if it does it again for us. A territorial knock of a bearded woodpecker. That red-billed hornbill is... There we go. There's that knock again. A lot of bird activity this morning. All those monotonous larks that we could hear. And it's funny how it changes depending on the time of year. When all of a sudden these other birds arrive, like the larks. They call constantly. A lot more quails, and I can actually... I've been hearing a few of them around now. It's the Currachane or Currachani, potato, I suppose. But the Currachane, I say Currachane, a button quail, which has a beautiful, beautiful call. I'll see if I can do it. It's quite a haunting call, I think. It's ooh, 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 something like that. That's the Currachane button quail, and they're all calling at the moment too, but they're very difficult to find in the long grass. But we'll see. Maybe we have some luck. Where shall we go now? Rebecca, all the way from Australia. You wanted, or you would like me to try and find a grey go-away bird. Rebecca, I will do my best. I saw some yesterday. I'll have a look around for them. A lot of starlings flying past, a lot of hornbills. There goes this waterbuck. Oh, sorry. The one that we just saw walk away from the dam. Female waterbuck. Interesting, I was about to say. Interesting that it's by itself, but it's not by itself. There's another one that is coming through just to our left. There we go. Very shaggy looking antelope. Now there's a myth attached to the waterbuck that lions do not particularly enjoy feeding on waterbuck or hunting waterbuck because the skin is very oily and the meat doesn't taste very good. Now I've seen lions feeding on waterbuck many times. They definitely do hunt waterbuck and they do feed on them. So that is a bit of a myth, but the waterbuck do have particularly oily skin, and that's one of the reasons for that is that it's a defense mechanism. If they do get chased, with them generally being around water a lot, when they are chased, they'll run through water holes or dams to get away, and that very oily substance or oily skin allows the water to run off and doesn't bog them down as quickly or as much. Now, we've been speaking about the lions and their tracks. It sounds like Tristan has found a track. Let's go and have a look and see if it's a male or female.
Well, Byron, this is not a lion track at all. In fact, this is little dainty footprints for shadow. Right, so it looks like a big lion track, but if I go stand there, you will see very quickly and very clearly that these are very little tracks. So I'm going to just come and show you that if I stand here and I put my hand, there you go, you can see the size of my hand is way bigger. So these are very small little female tracks for shadow. And we know that these are quite fresh because one, they're on top of the rain. So last night we had a bit of rain that fell. And the second thing is, if we look here, you see that there is a leaf that is inside the track. Now this leaf is actually been compressed into the track itself, which means that that is quite fresh, because any little bit of wind, and we had quite a bit of wind this morning, was blowing, this leaf would have picked up and rolled or been pushed away slightly, but it is actually still inside the track itself, and the edges are very smooth. So this is a very fresh track, and I'm sure that she's not too far away. I reckon that maybe she's going towards Red Dam or into the drainage line, where she could potentially be going back to her cub, because there's no tracks for the cub here. Now I know that she's got a little den site not too far from here, so I want to quickly just check in there. It's not an easy place to see. If she is inside there, we're going to really struggle to get a visual on her, because it's very steep banks with lots and lots of grass, but a perfect place for a leopard to hide her cubs. Now I know I was looking for lions and tracks for lions, but I get too excited when I see leopard tracks, and especially now with shadow, given that she's got cubs, wouldn't that be an amazing way to start a cat a day, is with shadow and her little tiny cub. Now that's what I'm hoping for. Imagine, we need to think positive vibes here. We need to think of her maybe sitting at Red Dam on the dam wall beautifully with a little cub playing around. That's what I'm going to go for, Dave. Right, so we're going to carry on following these tracks. I'm going to try and concentrate because the road gets very hard here. And while we do that, let's go across to Tayla, who's got something small with 8 legs. It is a little bit creepy.
We've got a kill going on right now, and I'm so glad you could just join us. If you have a look really closely, there is a beautiful yellow spider. Now, I'm not exactly sure what type of spider it is. It's got the most eccentric markings on it. So if you can take some screenshots and then hashtag Safari Live, post them on Twitter so we can ID it later with a spider book, I'd very much appreciate that. But the insect that it is taking down, of course, is unmistakable with a beautiful pattern along its wings. This is an adult antlion, and unfortunately, it is being eaten now. I don't know how long ago it got trapped in this web. It looks like it's almost reached at the end of its lifespan, though. Its wings are quite tattered. It looks to be quite thin, and it is actually still alive. So I think it obviously got trapped in the spider web around here. And, well, from the amount of debris that's actually in the middle of the web, I think that the spider is well fed and thought to itself, well, I don't need to catch you right now. You are perfectly happy in the web, you're not going anywhere. And now, literally, as we were about to come to us, it raced down from the top corner of the web and then is now biting it and injecting its venom into this little insect. And if the spider were to bite us, I don't think it would do much to us. Maybe you'd get a little headache. Most of the spiders out here, barring a couple, as you all know, will of medical importance, but this one, no, I don't think it is. It actually looks a little bit like a bark spider, but the coloration, of course, is completely wrong, and the shape of the body is also too robust. Bark spiders are actually quite flat. Remember, they've got to lay themselves flat down on a piece of bark. So it's injected its venom into this little antlion now, and slowly but surely you'll see that the movement of the antlion will stop, and you might not be able to see it, but its legs are twitching every now and then. Of course, the wind is going to blow the web around, so please excuse if the web does move a bit. It's not Craig's camera work. Craig has got phenomenal camera work. And what it's doing is, not only is it going to kill this insect, but it also acts as a digestive aid, so it liquefies its prey. And then what it will do is it will completely suck it dry. So I don't think a hearty meal for the spider. Like I said, it looks quite withered already. And it's tough life for the insects. Most of the adults don't even eat. Sometimes they just feed on pollen and nectar for energy, really. But they're not getting anything that is providing them with fat. They often store enough of that up. But it looks old, an old antlion. I'm actually not certain of how long an antlion will live after it has developed into an adult. Normally it's a couple of weeks, but I'll have to have a look at my insect book to see exactly how many days it can live for. Or weeks, maybe months. Sometimes they can live a bit longer, but this is really, really quite fascinating. Boba, now you're wondering what is the most poisonous spider in South Africa? So the term we normally use is venomous. Poisonous implies that you're going to eat it and then you'll get sick, whereas venom needs to be directly injected into the bloodstream. So we would say that snakes and spiders are venomous, but a grasshopper, a copy foam grasshopper or elegant grasshopper would be poisonous. And there's many. There's quite a few. The six-eyed crab spider, we've got the violin spider, the brown button spider, and literally the list goes on. Even the sack spider you've got to be careful of, that causes necrosis of the skin. That's my worst one, because we see them everywhere and they tend to bite people quite often. So there's many, but however, this one out here is not of importance. What we'll do is maybe on Drive, or I don't know if any of the guys have got any spider books on them at the moment. Maybe they can show you pictures of the ones. Actually, if you were watching yesterday afternoon, James was showing a brown button spider that we've got living. Well, there's many of them living in camp at the moment. So we'll probably be able to show you a live one. I'll show you one this afternoon. There's one that's living in Wendy underneath the acceleration pedal. With her eggs, so that's quite nice. But yes, but this one I don't think we need to worry about. But this is amazing, the way that it's actually capturing it. And I don't know if you can see it. Let me get a piece of grass without destroying the web. Let me take a piece of grass from this side. Is that this spider has actually anchored itself down. If you follow my fingers, so it came from the top, it came down on a safety line. Here's its web. You see how it's got its one leg on it? And that is actually still attached to the spinnerets, which is really amazing. So it just shows you know how you see people cleaning windows on skyscrapers, or people going up scaffolding to do some work. They often have harnesses and are attaching themselves. Even though the spider is really able to walk well on its web and not get stuck to its own web, it still makes sure that it's got an anchor and a safety rope. So if something does happen, an elephant or something walks through here, it can at least sort of attach itself, drop to the floor. And that's what most animals do. I've seen it with caterpillars too. When they feel threatened, or if they're on a piece of grass, they almost just let go. and fall straight down to the grass. Firstly, I think you fall into the grass, it's harder to find you. The same thing goes for a spider. If perhaps it's a bird that's come around to try and get it, maybe a spider hunting wasp, you never know. And going down where there's lots of foliage on the ground, and also the sandy colors, there's little crevices in the ground, there's many, many different escape routes. That's really cool. I think it could actually be feeding now, because it repositioned. But the antlion's not dead. You might even see it struggling a little bit, moving its wings very slightly. Now there's a strong breeze coming through. But I think it has actually started feeding now, because it's clamped on tightly. And I think it's just amazing how they're able to suck up their prey. Spiders are really, really fascinating things. And you know who's had some great spider sightings is Steph. I really think he's the arachnid king. He's seen them catching prey, and then James. But James had the praying mantis. Sorry, that wasn't a spider. That's praying mantis that caught a fly on his hand. And that's what's so exciting about being out here, is that the more you spend, the longer you sit with animals, the more you learn, and the better chance you have of seeing something amazing happen. So I could just sit in front of the spider all day long and watch, and just to see how long it's going to take for this antlion to, of course, completely die. See it struggling? Now, Mary, you're from Missouri. You're wondering if antlions are related to dragonflies. I suppose they look very similar. Antlions, damselflies, dragonflies. However, there definitely are differences. For example, dragonflies are actually carnivorous. Both the larval stage and the adults are predators, I suppose you could call them. And there's a couple of different things. So antlions have got clubbed antenna, as well as damselflies have also got the clubbed antenna. And then it also just depends on how they land too. When a dragonfly lands, it lands with its wings open and rests like that. You often see them on the edge of a reed, or just on a little stick or something like that, close to water, because that's their habitat that they prefer. And then damselflies and dragonflies, they tend to be a little bit more on the nocturnal side of things, and they sit with their wings right against their body, so they don't have them all sprawled out like a dragonfly does. But there are a couple of differences. There's actually a few. Every now and then you look and you think, ooh, is it really, or is it something else? But you just got to look carefully, of course. And we've been seeing there's been a definite outbreak. I don't think outbreak's the right word. That is a horrible word to choose. But there's definitely many, many antlions around at the moment. We're seeing them everywhere on Game Drive. That's actually tonight, this afternoon, for the Sunset Safari. I'm going to show you. And hopefully we'll get one on the road. And I saw it the other evening, how the reflection, the light that comes off of their eyes, because can you believe it, you can see the reflection on spiders' eyes, on all the relative insect eyes too. And a antlion's reflection on their eyes is very creepy. It looks like quite an evil insect. So hopefully we'll get one that is flapping around on the ground, and I actually look forward to showing you what it looks like. It's really cool. But lots of things are eating them at the moment, so not just the spider catching them. You'll find bush babies will be eating them. They'll be loving them at the moment. They're not the most elegant flyers either, so they're quite easy to catch, which makes sense that as it got trapped in this web, it probably didn't even look where it was going properly, though this web is also very much camouflaged. What else will be eating that? Oh, lots of different things. White-tailed mongoose will be running around the ground, snatching up every little antlion adult that they can, or any really grub, anything along those lines. Even civets, African civets, they'll catch them too. But the spider is having an absolute feast. It is really, really cool. And it's just such a beautiful color as well. I mean, you can see from your side those striking markings. Now, Tracy, you've asked an interesting question. You're wondering, what gives me the shivers in the bush? Tracy, it's a weird thing. And I think this actually applies to most guides. Is when you're out walking around, this thing heard Herbie whistle. We'll go to him now. We'll have to get up just now. Yes, it is him calling us, so we'll go there now. And, I have to say, when the birds are all chirping and there's lots of noise going around and then it goes silent. Deathly quiet. You can't hear the wind. You can't hear any birds. You can't hear the elephants trumpeting in the distance. That gives me the heebie-jeebies. And also when a big male lion walks past your car with no door on, that gives you goosebumps too. But there's many different things. Some are like sort of excited goosebumps. But yes, it's definitely intimidating having the big cats walk past the car, especially with no door. And you just got to, I know that nothing's going to happen as long as I sit nice and still and I don't try to grab their attention as they walk on past. That would be a very, very silly thing to do. But yes, that's quite intimidating. I had it the other night with Nana. If you remember, I think a couple of you got some really cool screenshots as I was just looking out of the corner of my eye as he walked on past us. So that was quite fascinating. Let's see what the spider's going to do. Maybe it's going to spin it up. Here we go. Yes, look at all the silk coming out of her spinnerets now. And I think this is a female just because it's quite big and robust, and it's got a very, very big cephalothorax, which is normally an indication that it could be a female. You've seen the males are much smaller, and there's no need for them to have a big cephalothorax. They're not laying eggs. But yes, she's getting ready to spin it up. This is amazing. And Steph was saying they've got 7 different types of silk, which I find absolutely fascinating. And you can clearly see the difference now between the silk. It's very, very sort of fluffy, if for a lack of better words. You can see that compared to the... There we go. You see? Look at it. Now she's going to anchor. I think maybe she's going to move it. There you go. She just wrapped a little bit off. Up she goes again. I love the way she uses her back legs to guide the web where she wants it to go. Let's see if she's going to take it to a strong point. And this is fascinating. This is actually things that I used to do as a kid. And if you've got children, you know, obviously teach them about the dangers of various insects and that you shouldn't touch them. But get them to sit outside. Get them away from the iPads and all of those things and TVs. Say, right, you sit out here for half an hour and you watch this spider. My parents didn't need to tell me that. I was always outside. They always had to whistle to call me back in. What? Oh no, she lost her footing there. Did you see that? So even a spider, luckily she had a little guy rope attached to it. That saved her over here. But she slipped. But she's still got the main bit of web attached. She thinks she's going to take it right up to the top of this grass and secure another line. Come on, girl, you're almost there. Taking back some of that web. See, that's not a very strong line. She'll probably come back once she's secured the ant line and repair some of these weaker strands. There we go, going down, taking another one. Look at her. It's amazing. I always think when spiders start doing stuff like this, it makes me think of abseiling. And I've done a bit of abseiling. It's a lot of fun. I've abseiled down a waterfall before. Many, many rocky areas, like sheer drops. I think the biggest abseil I've done was about... I think it was 100 meters. That was amazing. That was really cool. Just down the cliff face. The waterfall wasn't quite that big. It was only about 80 meters. Come on, girl. We're waiting for you. You're the star of the show. Come and wrap up this antlion. No, it's taking a break. But really beautiful, though. An absolutely phenomenal spider. And I'm looking forward to finding out a little bit more about it, to find out which family it is in. You can see antlion not quite dead. Resisting again. Desperately trying to get loose in the web, but unfortunately just not strong enough. There we go. Joining the webs. Look at that. Just making the web more taut. She's actually cutting a couple of lines and sort of readjusting, and she's missing a leg. I've just realized that. Oh my goodness. So on the right side of her body, it'll be on the left side for you. She's actually missing, I can only see the middle leg. You might not be able to see it now. So she's only got 3 legs on her right side of the body, on the left side of the screen for you. And the reason how I spotted it is that there's obviously some of the insect blood just secreting at the edge there, but something small like that won't bother her. She's not going to regrow the leg, unfortunately, but I suppose I need to maybe just have a quick look around that there's no buffalo sneaking or elephant sneaking up on us, but she'll be alright. I mean, you've seen she's managing 100%, and maybe that's one of the reasons why she lost her footing. It doesn't look like an old injury because that secretion is still quite wet, so perhaps it happened recently and she's just going to have to get used to her new adjusted life now. And that's what amazes me out here in the bush, is the way that the animals are able to deal with any sort of obstacles that they're given. And that goes down to natural selection. Some will deal with it better than others. And then, for instance, like our zebra, who I'm not sure where our zebra's gone. I think she's gone on a walkabout to try and find the rest of the herd, which is a bit dangerous. I wish she'd actually just stay put on quarantine with the zebra, with the wildebeest and all the impala. And she's doing the best she can, and so is the spider, which is incredible. Yes, that's exactly why she fell, because I can see now she's utilizing the middle leg quite a bit as she climbs up this rope, and she unfortunately can't do that now. Her other legs are a little bit too long because they're of different lengths as you go along the spider, and those middle ones seem to be a little quite short, and of course very important for moving around on the web, especially when the webs are close together, which she's adding a couple more strands. You see she's gone from one point over here back down, attaching another line, going back up again, and there's quite a bit of damage on the web, so I wonder if this wasn't caused when this antlion flew into it. You can imagine it would be a massive impact on a web like this, and I can only imagine she obviously lost a couple of these sort of guy ropes, if you will, these strands, which are very important to, of course, constructing the entire web. Yeah, very much damaged over here, so she'll have to do quite a bit of repairing. There's a big hole over here too. This is amazing. Well, she's just settling down. And she's in no particular hurry. There isn't any point in her rushing this process. It would be a different story if the insect was sort of about to come loose. Then she would have wrapped it up a while ago to try and secure it, to stop it struggling, almost putting restraints on it, if you will. But there's absolutely no need for her to do that. She can take her time. She's also got an injury, and I'm sure she doesn't want to waste too much energy. But that's a very cool, wonderful little spider. Thank you so much for that. I think we shall leave you in peace. Enjoy your meal, your breakfast. And we need to try and find Herbie now, who I think is just up around the corner. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And remember, please hashtag Safari Live with any of those screenshots that you took. I'd definitely like to have a look at them a little bit later after the walk. But let's go across to Tristan, who was tracking male lions. I don't know, maybe he's gone into Arathusa to follow up. Oh, right, we're still with me. And so, pardon me as I dust myself off at the moment. Right, off we go. Let's see what else we can find. Now I've got to readjust everything. Got to pull the pants up and hide the mic pack. Get the cable. You can see I'm covered in cables. Put those in the pocket. Now I've got pins and needles in my feet, which is wonderful. from sitting down. Right, this is wonderful. This is very awkward walking the way I am. You know what it's like. I've got to shake my legs out to get the feeling back into them. So Tristan doesn't have signal. That's all right. Thank goodness Byron is sitting at one of the biggest dams we have in the area. Let's go all the way to Chitwa.
And we are indeed, Tayla, but what an amazing sighting you had with that spider. But we are at Chitwa Dam at the moment, and it is another very, very full dam. And those of you who are just joining, my name is Byron, and with me on camera this morning is Viam. And we've been driving around. We were in search of lions earlier, no luck just yet. There have been a few tracks spotted around the area, but nothing substantial just yet. So we're going to still have a look, but I thought we'd come down to Chitwa Dam and see what's going on here. There's some hippo off to the left under those trees, but what I can't believe is how full it is at the moment. It's amazing how full these dams are. This is a beautiful, beautiful dam. Oh, look at the baby hippo. Do you see that? Staying very close to the mother. Oh, wonderful. Often what happens is these little babies will kind of ride on the backs of their mothers. They'll, I think what the mother's done is she's found some shallow water so the baby can stand there. But in the deeper water, the youngsters, the calves will go and stand on the back of the mother, so that they're able to keep their heads above water and breathe. But that is tiny. Look at that. Trying to stay very close to its mother there. Oh, that is fantastic. Still a lot of Egyptian geese around, and there's a grey heron. We're probably scanning for some fish in the shallows. Anisha, there's a lot of theories with the hippo and if they can swim or not swim, but technically they can't swim. The hippo don't swim or can't swim. So what happens is, Anisha, is the hippo choose areas within the dams or in the rivers where the water's actually shallow, so that they're able to either lay down or stand, just so that they can keep their heads above water. And that's where they usually rest, is in these shallow waters. But the hippo can hold their breath for quite some time. It's up to about 7 or 8 minutes. So if they are moving around, say from one side of the dam to the other, they are able to run underwater very, very well. So they'll run on the bottom of the riverbeds or of the dams, and they'll run from one side to the other, and they can stay under for quite some time. But what does sometimes happen, and especially I've seen it a lot of times in the Zambezi River, and that's up north and between Zimbabwe and Zambia. The Zambezi River is huge and can get very, very deep. But the hippo, what they'll do is they'll go to the bottom, move around, and then they push off from the bottom, from the riverbed, and they'll push up to the top to get a breath of air, and then they'll go back down and run again. Listen. Wonderful sound, the calls of hippo. So they'll, as I was saying, so they'll come up for a breath of air and then go down again and carry on moving. But when they do push up, they'll sometimes still kick their legs, but they can't actually swim properly. So it's not a case of them swimming through the water hole as opposed to just kicking instinctively. There's another little one over there. Oh, Beard, you asked, is there any lake weed or anything at the bottom of the dam that the hippo feed on? No, I'm not sure. I'm sure there is vegetation at the bottom of the dam or the water hole, but I don't. Excuse me. I don't think the hippo feed on it. The hippo generally are grazers. There are certain lilies and that they may feed on certain times of the year, but generally the hippo move out of the water and they feed on land. They feed on grass. I think in the delta, in the Okavango Delta, and that there's a lot of grass and vegetation through those areas that the hippo probably feed on in the water. But out here, I doubt there's anything at the bottom of this dam that they would feed on. They'll go and feed on the grass rather. I can hear some baboons calling in the distance. I'm just trying to listen if they are alarm calls or if they are just baboons fighting. Soraya, all the way from New Jersey, you wanted to know what percentage of a hippo's day do they spend in the water. So Soraya, it actually depends on the season. I'll tell you why. So now in summer, or we're actually moving out of summer, I suppose, but in summer, the temperatures obviously get very, very hot, and yesterday was a hot day too. But so when you've got temperatures of 100, 110 degrees Fahrenheit, it's very, very warm. So the hippo choose to stay in the water for most of the day. They will probably only come out for a few hours in the evening to feed on grass and then return back to the water again. So I would say anywhere between 2 or 4 hours out of the water and then the rest of the time back in the water in summer, in the heat of summer. In winter, however, when the temperatures drop quite a bit and the water obviously gets a lot colder too, the hippo prefer going and lying on the banks of the rivers or of the dams, and they'll bask in the sun for a lot of the day. That warms them up, and then they'll return back into the water again for a few hours and then go off and feed. So they'll probably spend maybe 10 hours during winter, 10 or more hours out of the water as opposed to in the water. So the percentage is a lot greater in winter compared to summer. So it does depend on the season. Just trying to listen out again if those baboons are calling. There's some waterbuck. We've seen a lot of waterbuck recently. And I actually think that is a family we saw yesterday. And the reason I say that is yesterday afternoon we came into this area, and these clearings are always full of animals moving through, coming to feed, a lot of different antelope species. We saw a group of waterbuck, and there were two youngsters, two young waterbuck calves, and the one was substantially lighter than the other one. And I came to the conclusion, or my theory is that I think the one was slightly older and it's going through that transition phase where it's moving into that grey coat that the waterbuck get, and the youngster was still quite dark. The younger one was a lot darker, but I just saw that light one over there, so I think that's same family we saw yesterday, or same group. Just having a look what other birds we've got around here. Egyptian geese, and there's a hardy dog or two, buffalo weavers. The water thickneys. There's a lot of different birds. There's a lot of village weavers around at the moment too, and they're on the opposite side of the bank. I wonder what just trying to think our next move from here. So it's difficult. You've got to think carefully what your plan is going to be. I'm going to head towards some of the clearings around Chitwa and see what we can find. Let's head back to Tristan and get an update from him and see what he's managed to find.
Well, I can tell you we've managed to find about 4 billion leopard tracks. There's leopard tracks everywhere. There's tracks for shadow, or what I think is shadow. There's tracks for a big male leopard as well. It looked like they met up, then they walked together for a while. Now shadow's tracks are turning back the other way. So I'm just trying to decode all of these footprints that are moving around in all these directions. It's quite amazing actually just to see how many tracks there actually are here. So we're all in the same area as well, around this red dam, Matunduluka Pan area. So it's just kind of going around in circles in a block. Now the male's tracks, where they meet up with the female, they were fresher coming the way that we were coming, but now I see Shadow's tracks are going back the opposite way, so it's difficult to say the least. We've checked very carefully on all the termite mounds, all the trees. Other than that, it's going to be really tough to find them, because unless they are mating and they are together, then won't. And in the grass that is around this area, you most certainly will not see them either. It's really, the grass is so long, it's going to be really tough to have any sort of view of a leopard unless it is sitting up on a raised. We get lucky with that, but hopefully they'll be on a road somewhere. We just got to keep persevering. Tracks we've seen, they're literally just tracks on every single road we've driven so far. Is by just getting out in directions. You've got to track the other, and then you see which way to go. At some point they will cross one another.
We're live. Oh, hi. Sorry, my earpiece has fallen out of my fallen out of my ear, so I'm just trying to get it back in. You know, the never-ending saga with the earpiece versus the presenters. It's yes, it's our favorite thing. Some days they fit nicely, and other days they just don't want to mold to your ear. So sorry about that. That's what I was doing there. Now, apologies, I think you lost signal with Tristan. Of course, the gremlins, they like these cloudy days. I'm starting to work this out now, is that cloudy days, cool days, when you can't see the tracks on the ground, so it's sneaky, it allows the gremlins to move around quite a bit, and they jump onto the back of the cars. But on bushwalk, we see them, and we stamp on them, we kick them, we swat them with worry bushes so they don't fight with us. But look what we've got over here, and this is really what I've spoken about this many times. It's one of my favorite things to see at the moment, is there was obviously a lot of elephant dung here. There is lots of evidence that there was elephants here. There's also these bits of grass which they've decided that they don't like and are not very tasty, so chop them off and then pop them on the ground. The dung beetles have come through, completely devoured all the dung. Termites and ants doing the same thing, taking the partially digested pieces of grass as well as the skin, a couple of bits of skin from the marula fruits left too, and then the termites will also take care of all these bits of grass. They will build their mound over something like that. But this is a great little spot here, and I'm surprised we haven't seen a whole lot of squirrel or a whole group of monkeys and things, anything that were really gerbils, bushveld gerbils that will come through here and will take these as prized possessions. But I'm sure that they'll eventually find this little pile, and before you know it, if we come and check here in a few weeks' time, it'll be completely gone, because all these little nuts would have been buried. Well, the stones, the nuts are still inside. Right, let's keep going. I don't know if I enjoy the marula nuts that much. They're not my absolute favorite. They're tasty, but listen, if I can have a cashew or a macadamia nut, that's I think I prefer one of those. But I must tell you, I actually am missing the marulas. I feel as though I didn't eat enough, and I ruined it for myself, because remember that day David and I ate about 20 each on one game drive. We'd put them in the freezer and put them in a packet and then ate them on game drive, and it felt like we completely burnt our mouths. And then after that, I didn't really have the heart to, of course, eat marulas again. So now I'm missing them. I'll have to wait an entire year. Oh well, something to look forward to. Herbie, what do you have? Herbie's pointing at something. Another spider. Oh, this is a different one. This is cool. Come have a look here. Oh, wow. Craig, this is going to be a hard one. Can you see it in there? The little black thing. And actually, look, I don't even know what that is. That's amazing. I'm seeing all sorts of new spiders for the first time today. That yellow one I haven't seen before. That could also be in the orb family, though, the yellow spider we were looking at. I've just been thinking, can you see it? It's it's the black thing that's now sitting in the center of the web. That doesn't even look like a spider. I wonder if it's a bird dropping spider, because that's actually what it resembles. So there's not much white on it. Maybe it's a lizard dropping spider. I don't think those exist, but look at it. Look at how it opens itself up and then closes itself. A bit of yellow, little bits of white. It is beautiful, and again, it's made its web in between the grasses. There seem to be a lot of spiders utilizing the grass at the moment rather than the trees, which I don't blame them for. I think you'll get a lot more insect activity at a lower level. And it doesn't have any fresh meals, not really eating anything, just sitting in the middle of the web waiting for its next victim. Now, Radeep, you're wondering who is the primary predator of a spider out here in the wilderness? Well, many different things. My goodness, we can actually go into quite a cool chat about this. I would say birds have to be... Wait, Craig. Just had to slap a fly. Get away, we're trying to do filming here. They're so inconsiderate, these biting flies and the big flies. I just told them to back off and with my hand. Now they're leaving us alone. So I would say birds. The amount of birds that I've seen feeding on spiders is unbelievable. All different kinds of spiders, bark spiders, orb spiders, seen birds eating sack spiders too, which is wonderful because they must eat all of those. And like I said, venom is only becomes dangerous if it bites the bird or it bites an animal. If they eat it whole, even if I were to take a violin spider and say that I managed to clamp down on it. I'd never eat one though, but I could theoretically bite into it and then swallow it. And as long as I didn't have any abscesses or any cuts or wounds in my mouth going down my esophagus into my belly, I'll be 100% that venom won't affect me at all. But I'm not going to try that. I prefer to not have to eat a spider. And then, of course, yesterday I forgot to tell you, can you believe this? I actually managed to get a very quick photo with all the lightning and the pouring rain that descended upon us. And we were racing back. I spotted a spider hunting wasp dragging something in the distance across the road. Can you believe it? It was a little baboon spider. Not a very big one. I think a baboon spider was only about that big with its legs and everything. So it was quite a youngster still. And that was really amazing to see. I haven't seen it in such a long time. And so there we go. That's another predator. And particularly rain spiders and baboon spiders. They don't seem to go after anything small. I don't think it's really viable for them to go. So different species of wasps. Goodness. Whew, you can go lots of different things. You'll even find not just birds, not just wasps, but again you could go into white-tailed mongoose. They won't say no to a spider. All the different other species of mongoose will also eat them. They eat scorpions, they eat everything that they can get their little paws on. So yeah, there's many different things. But then of course spiders are really important to have around here because they are responsible for, of course, controlling a lot of the insect population, the biting flies that annoy us here at Wild Earth, the grasshoppers, and you can go on and on and on. They catch everything in those webs. Obviously it depends. The bigger the spider, the stronger the web. Like for instance the garden orbs and the golden orbed web spiders, goodness, they catch massive things. You see them catching huge moths, big butterflies, massive grasshoppers that would completely destroy a small spider's web like that. For instance, an elegant locust. You can imagine they're quite powerful, and we're not really seeing any of the small nymphs anymore. We've seen that they've got quite big, and they will leap straight through a small spider's web like that. But a garden orb or a golden orb web spider, that's a different story. And I even think to an extent something like a community nest spider could take down something big like an elegant grasshopper. Because remember, out here we don't have very many social spiders, but the community nest spiders are fantastic, and there's hundreds that live in those closed nests. Maybe that's something we can try and look for today. But remember, unfortunately they're nocturnal, so they're not really as active as they are at night. And I think on a cold day like today, we wouldn't really be seeing much. Their web would all be completely enclosed with leaves to try and keep them warm as we build up now into these winter months. Right, Byron has jumped back onto his car. I'm not sure what he was doing on the ground, but let's go take a look and see what tracks he was searching for.
So Taylor, I don't really know where I'm driving either. we're on Chitwa, but we just saw a leopard track, but it looked like it was from last night, so not worth following for the moment. And there've been some hyena tracks, but just after the rain last night, they're not fresh at all. It's always worth just having a look, getting out and making sure that the tracks are either fresh or not, but definitely not worth our while for now. So just driving around, it is very thick in this area, but that's good because you never know, you could potentially bump into something walking on the road. It's a general game this morning. And we've seen a lot of waterbuck, which is surprising. Actually, more waterbuck than impala. Richard, you asked, are there any animals in this area that are completely nocturnal? Technically speaking, Richard, yes, there are. There are animals that are considered to be strictly nocturnal, but, and I say technically speaking because you never know, you might still bump into something that's wandered out during the day. But animals like aardvark are considered to be nocturnal, which we do get in this area, but I don't think we've ever seen one in the Sabi Sands. but we see their tracks and they are around. And what I definitely haven't seen one, I don't think we've seen one on Safari Live. What else? Other little nocturnal animals. Well, I suppose like the little cats. African wild cat is considered to be nocturnal, but you might bump into one during the day or see it early in the morning. But generally, yeah, those types of animals. I mean, owl species. They are nocturnal, but you do see them during the day at times, staying up. A few bird species like the Nat.Geos are considered to be nocturnal, and they sit on the roads at night and try and catch insects. But if you walk through the bush, you might disturb one and it could take off and settle somewhere else. So you can still see it during the day, but it is nocturnal. Little creatures like scrub hares, they are nocturnal. So there are a number of different species that are considered to be strictly nocturnal.